Jai Mahamaya Ki Jai. In our last discourse, we found out about Veda Vyasa being summoned by his mother because he made the promise that whenever she thought of him, he would come, and came to her kingdom because she was ruling as the queen and her king had died and so had her sons. And so she was asking her eldest son, Veda Vyasa, to father princes for the kingdom to carry on the family line. And this happened, and although he was not he'd been living in the forest for thousands of years, so he wasn't looking like a very handsome man. And so the first daughter-in-law closed her eyes, and so her son was born blind. And the second grew pale when she saw Veda Vyasa, and so her sons were all pale. Her son was pale, and they named him Panda, which means pale. And the third actually was born of the womb of the maidservant, because one of the daughter-in-laws couldn't face having intercourse with Veda Vyasa again, and she had a beautiful son named Vidura. So now we're going to go on, and actually we're both starting book 2, chapter 1 now. The Rishi said, "O Sutta, your words sound wonderful to us indeed, but you have not as yet definitely spoken to us of the original events in the detail. So a great doubt has arisen in our minds. We know that the king Santanu married Veda Vyasa's mother, Satyvati. Now say in detail in how Vyasa became her son, and how such a chaste woman, Satyvati, remaining in her own house, came to be married again to the king Santanu, and how the two sons came to be born of Santanu's sperm and Satyavati's ovum. Now, O highly fortunate Sutta, kindly describe in detail this highly sanctifying historical fact. These rishis who are observing vows are desirous to hear the birth of Veda Vyasa and Satyavati." Sutta said, "I bow down with devotion to the highest primordial force, the bestower of the fourfold aims of existence of human life, who grants to all their desires when so prayed by the help of the Bhagavatam Bij mantra of the Divine Mother, with their heart and soul for the success of all their desires. The above bija is so potent in its effect that even pronounced very lightly, even under a pretext, it grants all siddhis. So the Devi should be remembered by all. And now, saluting her, I begin my narration of the auspicious Puranic events. In days gone by, there reigned a king named Uparikara. He ruled over the countries and respected the Brahmanas. He was truthful and very religious. Indra, the lord of the Devas, became very pleased by his asceticism and presented him an auspicious celestial car, which goes up in the air, made of pearls and crystals, helping him in doing what he liked best. Mounting on this divine chariot, that religious king used to go everywhere. He never remained on earth. He used to remain always in the atmosphere, and therefore he has his name, Uparikara Vasu, which means moving in the upper regions. He had a very beautiful wife named Girika, and 5 powerful sons of indomitable vigor were born to him. The king gave separate kingdoms to each of his sons and made them all kings of their kingdoms. Once on occasion, Girika, the wife of the king, after a bath at the right time and becoming pure, came to the king and informed him of her desire to get another son. But that very day, the Pitras, the ancestors, had requested him to go hunting for a deer to have for their Srimad ceremony and to perform in honor of the different ancestors. Hearing the Pitras, the king became somewhat anxious for his wife, but thinking of his Pitras, his ancestors, that their words were more important and more worthy to be obeyed, went out on a hunting expedition to get the deer and other animals with the thought of his wife, Girika, in his breast. Then while he was in the forest, he remembered his beautiful wife, who was equal in her beauty and loveliness to Sri Lakshmi, and the emission of semen virile took place. He kept his semen on the leaf of a banyan tree and thought, how this semen may be not futile. My semen cannot remain unfruitful. My wife has just now become ready to have a baby, and I will send her this semen to my dear wife. Thus thinking the time being ripe, he closed the semen under the leaf of the banyan tree, and charging it with the mantra power, addressed a falcon close by thus, O highly fortunate one, take this semen and go to my palace. O beautiful one, do this work, take this semen virile, and go quickly to my palace and hand it over to my wife, Girika, who today is ready to be impregnated. Sutta said, O rishis, thus saying, the king gave that leaf with the semen in it to the falcon, who was capable of going quick in the air, and the falcon took it immediately and rose high up into the air. Another falcon, seeing this one flying in the air with the leaf in his beak, considered it to be some piece of flesh and fell upon it. Immediately, a gallant fight ensued between the two birds with their beaks. While the fighting was going on, that leaf with the semen virile fell down from their beaks on the waters of the Yamuna River. Then the two falcons flew away as they liked. O Rishi, while the two falcons were fighting with each other, one Apsara, a celestial nymph named Adrika, came to a Brahmin who was performing his meditation on the banks of the Yamuna. That beautiful celestial nymph began to bathe in the water and took a plunge for playing sport and caught hold of the feet of the Brahmana. This Muni, engaged in deep meditation, saw that woman who had amorous intentions toward him, and cursed her, saying, as you have interrupted me in my meditation, you should become a fish. Adrika, one of the best apsaras, thus cursed, assumed the form of a fish and spent her days in the Yamuna rivers. When that semen virile of Uparikara Vasu fell from the beak of the falcon, that fish, who formerly was Andrika, came quickly and ate that, and she became pregnant. When 10 months passed, a fisherman came there and caught in his net that fish, Andrika. When the fish's belly was torn asunder, 2 human beings instantly came out of the womb. One was a lovely boy, and the other a beautiful girl. The fisherman was greatly astonished to see this. He went and informed the king of that place, who was Uparikara Vasu, about that boy and girl and how they were born of the fish. The king also was greatly surprised and took the boy, who seemed very auspicious, into his kingdom. Then the king, who was highly energetic and powerful, truthful and religious like his father, this Vasu's son, who was highly energetic and powerful and truthful and religious like his father, the king, and he became famous by the name of King Matsyaraja. Meanwhile, the king gave the girl to the fisherman, And this girl was named Kali, and she became famous by the name of Matsuridari, because the smell of the fish came out of her body, and so she was named also Matsya Ganda. Thus the auspicious Vasu king's daughter remained and grew in the fisherman's house. The rishis said, the beautiful Apsara, cursed by the Muni, turned into a fish. She was afterwards cut asunder and eaten by the fishermen. Very well, what happened afterwards to the Apsaras? How was she freed from her curse, and how did she go back to heaven? Thus questioned by the rishis, Sutta spoke as follows. When the Apsara was first cursed by the Muni, she was greatly astonished. She began to weep and cry like one greatly distressed, and afterwards began to praise him. The Brahmanan, seeing her weeping, took pity on her and said, "O good one, don't weep. I am telling you how your curse will expire. As an effect of having incurred my wrath, you will be born as a fish, and when you will give birth to 2 human children, you will be free of your curse." The Brahmin, having spoken thus, Adrika got a fish body in the waters of the Yamuna. Afterwards, she gave birth to 2 human children and became freed of the curse when she, quitting the fish form, assumed the divine form and went back up to the heavens. Rishis, that beautiful girl, Matsya Ganda, thus took her birth and was nourished in the fisherman's house and grew up there. With the extraordinarily lovely girl of Vasu, Matsya Ganda attained her youth. She continued to do all the household duties of the fisherman and remained in that home. Thus ends the first chapter of the second book on the birth of Matsya Ganda in Mahapurana Srimad Devi Bhagavatam of 18,000 verses by Maharishi Veda Vyasa. Jai Mahamaya ki jai, Bole Baba ki jai. Om Namah Shivaya.